Well, welcome to another explainer. Today, we're assembling what I can literally only describe as the ultimate 17th century linguistic dream team. We're looking at a group of brilliant scholars who pulled off an incredibly complex translation heist. We're talking about the creation of the King James Bible, and specifically, we're looking at a fascinating group known as the First Cambridge Company.
Okay, so let's just dive straight into the core question here. How do you translate the soul of ancient poetry? Translating a list of historical rules or a straightforward narrative, that's one thing. But capturing the profound raw emotion of books like Psalms and Job, that took a completely different caliber of scholar. You aren't just moving words across a page, you're moving grief and joy and this deep, profound wisdom across centuries and across entirely different language families.
Now, the First Cambridge Company was handed everything from First Chronicles straight through to the Song of Solomon. Basically, they had to conquer Hebraic poetry. This meant mastering its intricate structure and its parallelisms, which is where ideas are mirrored rather than just rhymed. Along with the massive emotional gravity of these ancient texts, they absolutely needed a team of hyper-specialists to pull this whole thing off.
And they definitely built an elite squad for it. We've got 5 brilliant minds here: Richardson, Chaderton, Dillingham, Andrews, and Harrison. Each of these men brought a highly specialized superpower to the table, a specific academic pillar, a unique devotional focus, and a precise linguistic edge that was absolutely crucial to executing this monumental task. So let's break them down one by one.
All right, first up we have John Richardson, the rhythm maker.
Richardson was a Regius Professor of Divinity, as well as the Master of Peterhouse and Trinity College. His devotional focus was centered on a really grave, serious discipline. He firmly believed that the sanctity of the academic institution directly reflected the sanctity of God. His vital role on this team came down to his absolute mastery of Hebraic poetry. He was academically obsessed with the structure of the Psalms, so his job was to make sure that the New English translation perfectly mirrored not just the literal meaning, but the rhythmic weight of the original Hebrew verses. You know when you read a psalm out loud today and you just feel that powerful marching cadence? Yeah, you have John Richardson to thank for that.
Moving right along, next up is Lawrence Chaderton, the synthesizer.
Chaderton was the first master of Emmanuel College and a moderate Puritan who was fiercely devoted to making Scripture practical, plain, and profitable for the average everyday person. He wanted this text to be deeply accessible. And get this man of great prayer lived to the incredible age of 103. I mean, just think about the sheer endurance that implies. He brought vital stamina to a completely grueling translation process that required years of meticulous, exhausting daily scholarship.
What Chaderton was really famous for, though, was his Latin and Greek synthesis. He had this remarkable ability to take a highly complex Greek concept, completely digest it, and then find the exact English words that carried the exact same theological punch the Church was used to feeling in the Latin Vulgate, which was the standard Bible of the time. He basically made sure the translation didn't lose an ounce of its historical power when it was brought into everyday English.
Now, every good heist team needs fiercely defensive specialists to protect the asset, right? That brings us to Francis Dillingham and Roger Andrews, the defenders of the word.
Francis Dillingham was a prolific writer of practical divinity who viewed translation as literally a defensive wall against theological error. As an eminent Grecian, he was obsessively cross-referencing the Greek Septuagint, the earliest Greek translation of the Old Testament, just to make sure the English captured the exact nuances recognized by the early church. Meanwhile, on the other side, you have Roger Andrews focusing entirely on Hebrew lexicography. He strictly used dictionary definitions of ancient roots, ensuring that the rarest Hebrew words in the wisdom literature were translated with absolute pinpoint technical accuracy.
But, as you might guess, that level of perfectionism definitely comes at a cost. Andrews, who was the master of Jesus College, channeled his devotion through such rigid textual preservation that he became utterly obsessed with the letter of the law. Because of his uncompromising dedication to microscopic details, he was pretty widely known to have a rather difficult, abrasive personality. Actually, scratch that, he was basically known as being a bit of a nightmare to work with.
So, how did they survive each other? That brings us to the man who kept the whole thing from going off the rails, Thomas Harrison, the stabilizer.
Seriously, put yourself in that room for a second. How did a group of brilliant, fiercely passionate scholars with massive, clashing egos not completely tear each other apart over ancient syllables? Well, enter Thomas Harrison, Vice Master of Trinity College. His devotional focus was, perfectly enough, academic patience. When intense linguistic debates inevitably exploded between these titans, Harrison was the indispensable peacemaker. He mediated the arguments, balanced the room, and kept the team unified.
But he wasn't just a friendly mediator keeping folks calm, he was a powerhouse scholar himself. Beyond keeping the peace, his linguistic edge was etymological history. He actually tracked how a Hebrew word's meaning shifted from the time of Moses all the way down to the time of David. By knowing the precise historical evolution of the words, he could settle their arguments with objective history rather than subjective preference. This ensured the structural integrity of the Hebrew was never, ever sacrificed purely for the sake of making the English sound stylish.
And that right there gave us the perfect linguistic balance.
By combining Richardson's heavy rhythm, Chaderton's synthesis, the totally uncompromising accuracy of Dillingham and Andrews, and Harrison's incredible patience, this team actually pulled the heist off. Which leaves us with a pretty provocative thought to ponder today. We so often talk about how the King James Bible shaped the English language and how language shapes our world, but if that's true, how much of our cultural world today was actually shaped by the stabilizing patience of one Cambridge peacemaker? Without Thomas Harrison keeping this incredible ensemble together, this masterpiece might never have seen the light of day. Thanks for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking those great questions, and I'll catch you next time.